I don't think it's not in here.
Okay, I've given the okay to start, so we appreciate your patience. Welcome to Session 5, Common Origination and Disbursement Update. My name is Marie Fitzpatrick, and I am very pleased to be at the podium again with my co-presenter, Tanika Chalastri. And if you were here last year, you may recognize us because we are the same dog and pony show as last year for COD updates. So welcome. Okay, I'm going to go through the agenda. We try and cover all of our updates in chronological order. Sometimes that helps to kind of keep straight what is being implemented when. We have a bullet up here on the screen that says future enhancements, but honestly, we had so much to present. We are not going to cover anything that's going in past spring 2020, really, in most of our material. So Tanika is going to get us started, so I'm just going to hand it over to her.
Thanks, Marie. So for our prior implementations, first we're going to discuss the sequestration changes. Then we're going to go over R2T4 and COD that recently went in April 2019. And then finally, we're going to discuss the claims processing changes that General Brown went over earlier today. So this slide may look familiar for anyone who saw the conference, came to the conference last year. But in terms of sequestration affected program updates, the origination fees for the subsidized direct loan and unsubsidized direct loan, the slight decrease. Then for TEACH grant and for Iraq and Afghanistan service grants, you'll see that there's a slight % reduction. So next for R2T4 on COD, by a quick show of hands, how many institutions are currently using R2T4 on COD? Okay, so a pretty decent number. So since going live in April 2009 up into the end of the fiscal year, about 990 institutions have been using R2T4 on COD. That is to calculate records, R2T4 worksheets for close to 40,000 students, so it is being used quite frequently. Again, it is not a tool that's required, so if you have a tool that your service provider does for you, then you can do R2T4 there, or you can still do the paper form. There were some minor updates with the tool, and because of those updates, we've had to fix like minor formatting issues. There was a couple little calculation issues that were impacting a small number of schools initially with the release. To address some of the questions and concerns that institutions had regarding navigation, our training officers prepared a really good video to show institutions how they can set up their institutional charges profile and calendar profiles and navigate through some of the new pages on the COD site, and that's currently available on the FSA e-training website. Most of the questions that come through for R2T4 go straight into Ask a Fed. So if you've ever tried to call the customer service number, you'll be routed to Ask a Fed, and then those individuals will answer your questions regarding navigation, or if you're having any sort of concerns with calculations or policy questions. So as a result of that, they're going to be working on a Q&A of commonly asked questions, and that will also be posted to the e-training website when it is available, most likely in early 2020. So last year we talked about R2T4 being available in FAA access, and that we were going to decommission that soon, and that we wanted all institutions to start to download their information and save it according to your institutional policies. It's still available. We say for a limited time it will be decommissioned, but we do not have that date yet, and I apologize for that. It's still available, but it will be decommissioned most likely in 2020. So for our claims processing changes, anyone who's an HCM to school or manual review school that's going through the reimbursement process. Just as General Brown discussed, it's just a very paper-intensive process with your payment analyst. So this is really part of a government-wide initiative to reduce paper processing. And this change that went in November allows for the online submission of documentation and payment request claims. Generally, the schools that are impacted and that are able to upload their documents to COD would receive notification through their payment analysts that they're able to do that. So if you're a school that's impacted that is able to upload your documentation, you would receive information from FSA. So now we're moving into winter, and we're going to discuss the COD system implementation, which is going to be happening December 14th. And with that, we're going to discuss the new document center on COD. So we have a few slides to talk about for that. And then we're going to talk about minor impacts to COD for next gen. And that's going to be the digital customer care solution that's going to be going in tentatively, we're hoping the end of December. So the Electronic Document Center is going to be set up as a centralized electronic repository of any of your program compliance documents. The initial release is designed for documents that are supporting any sort of compliance-related services. That's going to be your eligibility and certification, your program reviews, if you have any sort of audits through FSA. It's going to be accessible to all school users, affiliated third-party servicers, and FSA-designated users. And you'll be able to review FSA document requests. So if a program reviewer is requesting that from you, you'll receive notification of that. You can also securely upload documents and view previously uploaded documents through a search. So some of the new features within the Document Center, there's going to be a notification dashboard, and we have slides that'll show you screenshots of that later in this presentation. But the school dashboard is where any school user is going to be able to go to see what the documentation request from FSA is for. Then on the FSA side, we'll have our own dashboard where you can be tagged to view recently uploaded documents that you requested an institution to submit. There's also going to be a document search, and similar to how R2T4 was implemented, those documents that are uploaded are going to be available 10 years from the go-live date. So here's a screenshot with dummy information. And this is the school dashboard, and it's available on COD. It's going to be located under a drop-down for tools. So currently under tools, R2T4 is listed. So the dashboard and all the other document center information is also going to be available under tools. So here you'll see that school users will be able to log in and see notifications and view any FSA documentation request. My understanding is that you'll receive an email notification that to go on to the site to go view what documents are being requested for you, whether it's for a compliance audit or for a program review. So some additional features on the upload documents pages. Users are able to upload according to business function. We kind of talked about this a little bit, whether it's for a program review, compliance audit, et cetera. The file max size is 20 megabytes, and there's going to be a 3-file limit per the subcategory. And I'll show you. So here's part of one of the upload new document page. So on it, you'd be able to tag pertinent details regarding whether it's fiscal year, if you have a case ID or audit number, just to help identify the document for FSA review. At the bottom, I didn't circle it, so I apologize for that, but there's a mark confidential. So if you're a school user and you need to upload documents, those documents will be able to be viewed by any other school users unless you mark confidential. So if it's something that only needs to be viewed by the individual uploading it and the FSA person that's requesting it, you would hit that, and then no one else would be able to view that information. So as you scroll down the page, then you would be choosing your document category, and that's where you're going to select the business category, whether this is a program review, whether it's method of payment, or it's for ASG. Then you would set the subcategory. So for instance, this one's eligibility and certification. So your subcategory would be whether it's going to be some correspondence or an application analysis. And then from there, you would choose your document type. I went too far. So at that point, you would hit submit. It would run through its normal COD checks, so it's going to do a virus scan on the documentation you submit, make sure it fits within the file size, and then you'd be able to move forward. In terms of document types, it's going to accept a multitude of documents, whether it's PDF, a text file, doc files, PNG files. So you have a lot of variety in terms of how you're submitting documentation, or if you use your own electronic imaging and your school and need to transfer over. So now we're going to talk about next-gen FSA, or now-gen FSA, based on our earlier presentation. So the updates are minimal for the first iteration of next-gen, or when everything moves over to studentaid.gov. So the one change that is on COD, which is very minor, are that your COD school options are going to be updated to reflect studentaid.gov instead of studentloans.gov. So that's if you think of your non-award specific and award year specific updates in the options. In addition, all studentloans.gov landing pages and demos, all that functionality is moving to studentaid.gov, and as a result, studentloans.gov is not going to be accessible. It'll all redirect to studentaid.gov. In terms of the school impact, schools are still going to continue to access COD the way you normally would if you go in there to look up PLUS applications or counseling or do your normal batch request. Nothing's really going to change for the first iteration of next-gen FSA, which we believe is going to go in at the end of December. So I would also encourage you guys to go to session 29. It's currently going on right now, but there is another session that will be available on Thursday. And that's going to be really early, around 8:45 to 10 o'clock, to see what's going in December and how that's going to change with all their additional releases. So now we're going to talk about our spring, so our future updates. Our COD system implementation is going to be set in April. We believe it will be the first week in April. With that, we're going to discuss the new award year setup for 2020-2021. We're going to talk about the new Schema version, which is it's Schema 4.0D. We're going to talk a little bit more about the Informed Borrower Tool confirmation process, and then I'm going to pass it over to Marie, who will discuss the changes for the CIP Codes and protocol and the Children of Fallen Heroes Scholarship Act changes. So for new award year setup, this slide is almost exactly the same slide from last year, with the exception of the new image at the bottom. With the new award year setup in April, it's standard, so we're going to switch to 21 for all the award year message classes. Loan IDs, MPN IDs, all of those are going to be switching to 21. Report format selections are going to carry forward. And then studentaid.gov, since studentloans.gov is no longer going to be available, those website processing options are going to carry forward, for instance, for your PLUS loan application. So in terms of new schema changes, so the Common Record XML schema version, that's going to go out, and it's 4.0D. With that, all 2021 Common Records must be sent using the new schema. Common Record responses, everything is basically that COD's going to send out is going to be using the new schema, which is 4.0D. That includes unsolicited system-generated responses. COD web activity responses will also be sent for all years sent out by the COD system using the new schema version. So next, we're going to talk about the Informed Borrower Tool confirmation. So the Informed Borrower Tool was designed as part of the Master Promissory Note confirmation process, and it was done with the idea of better assisting borrowers and understanding their financial responsibility of funding their education. The way it's set up, if you have a chance to do the demo, you'll see that borrowers are presented with a fairly user-friendly interface where they can kind of view their cumulative loan balance and repayment obligation if they're in school, and if they have not attended school yet, they can see their average borrowing based on the institution that they're going to or would like to go to. So the confirmation process is a little different than IBT. Our understanding is that there is going to be an initial release of Informed Borrower tool, and that would happen sometime in January, late January, February. That will just allow students and parents to view the document, but it won't have an actual confirmation component, or it won't be linked to disbursement. In terms of the confirmation process, this is going to impact all direct loan borrowers, and that includes students who are doing direct unsub, sub, or graduate plus, and parents who are applying for a plus loan on behalf of their students. They're going to be required to view and confirm their loan balance for each new award year starting 2020, 2021 forward before you can disperse the loan. Now, this confirmation is going to be needed in addition to any other requirements before dispersing funds. So if your institution requires that a student goes and accepts their award online, if it's a loan, generally that's what you're doing. And if it's a new loan, they're going to need to do their entrance counseling and do the MPN and also do the Informed Borrower tool. This process requirement is going to be implemented in April 2020 because that's when the schema with the new tags, that's when that's going to be available. But it's only going to apply for the 2020-2021 award year. So this is just a screenshot. I would encourage you guys again to visit the Resource Center to preview IBT and also to go to the Next Gen session. But this shows you just that students, regardless of where they are in their life cycle of borrowing, that they're able to use the tools. So if it's before they borrow, they're able to go in and interface with the college scorecard to make informed choices just based on average borrowing at that institution. While borrowing, it's going to show their outstanding loan balance so they can acknowledge that they just see how much they're borrowing at that time. And then during repayment, based on their amount of borrowing that they have done while in school, it's going to give them an estimate of what their repayment would be under the standard repayment plan. So we know there are a lot of other repayment options, but it's just going to give them a quick outlook of what it would look like under standard repayment for them to pay off their loans monthly. So with the Informed Borrower tool confirmation process, there are quite a few operational changes on the COD end of things. We talked previously about the new Schema version, 4.0D, and we had to do that because of all the new tags and the new rejecting edit. So there are going to be 3 new tags, 1 rejecting edit. We have a new system-generated response message class, and then there's also going to be a new search on COD. I will preface all of this. We pretty much have finalized requirements for this. We're still going through our general design, so unfortunately I can't show you what the slides are going to look like on COD or what the screenshots will be for those, for the new search on COD, but I can give you as much information as we have at the moment, but we're still working through these changes. So new tags were added to the common record schema version award level response blocks for direct loan awards. So there's 3 tags. The first is the informed borrowing complete, and that's going to be true or false. Then there's the informed borrowing completion date, and that's a date value with the year, month, and day. Then the informed borrowing ID, which is going to be a unique ID that's going to be assigned once the user completes the IBT and confirms their balance. If the informed borrowing complete comes through as false, then you're only going to receive that tag. You won't receive the tags for the informed borrowing complete date or for the informed borrowing ID because the user didn't actually complete their informed borrowing. So there is a new reject edit. So the new reject edit is 225, and this is going to trigger when the disbursement release indicator is true and the borrower has not acknowledged their loan balance for the award year 2020-2021. The message text is a little different than what's listed in the technical reference, but they both basically say the same thing, which is that the actual disbursement submitted, that the institution submitted, didn't have an informed borrowing completion on file, so that the student would need to go and do IBT before you could actually release those funds. There's also going to be a new system-generated message class, so you'll see YY is going to be the new trailing award year. I believe we're still working with SAIG just to get that all finalized, and when that is done, we'll update the tech ref for you all to see what the actual message class will be. This message is going to trigger when the borrower acknowledges their loan balance, and it's going to be sent to any school that had a loan on file for the award year prior to completion of IBT, or if the school requests one to be sent to them through COD Web. So with the system-generated responses, schools are going to receive the tags in their DL origination response if the loan is originated after the individual completes IBT. So other thing to note, the DL rebuild origination detail record will be updated with the new tags that we went over to show the IBT completion, the date, and the uniquely identified borrowing ID from COD. So there is going to be a search for IBT. We haven't completely designed that, but school users and third-party servicers and FSA users are going to be able to search for IBT. That's going to be an SSN search. We believe it's going to be similar to counseling, where you can put in multiple SSNs to run your search on COD, and then those results will be able to be exported through CSV. Again, as we get more details about what things are going to look like on COD, we'll communicate to everyone through IFAT. And now, thank you all, and I'll pass this over to Marie.
Thanks, Tanika. Can everybody hear me, hopefully? I am going to continue on, and we're going to talk about CIP codes for 2020. Now, I know that we covered some of this in the general session where they touched on that, so you know that we are going to a new table of CIP codes that'll be valid for 2021 and forward. For those of you that are unfamiliar, the CIP code, or the classification of instructional programs, this is what the department uses to track the student's field of study. So the codes have been in existence since the 1980s, and they are reviewed generally every decade or so. So I always remember it's with the census that we should probably be looking at new CIP codes. And I know they didn't give you this much detail in the general session today. There are 12 CIP codes that are completely deleted from the table in the 2020 table that were available in the 2010 table. But before you all panic, no one, not one institution of the over 6,000 that send us data, have sent us any of these 12 CIP codes in almost 3 years. So we think we're good. So there's no need to panic, because you probably don't have anyone at your institution that you're currently using one of those 12 CIP codes for. There are 497 new codes. There are 149 that were kind of consolidated with another CIP code because people weren't really using the one and they were heavily using the other one, and this analysis is done before they put out the new table. But please keep in mind that almost 2,000 of the CIP codes have absolutely no changes at all, and those are the ones that most of you are using. So hopefully this will be rather seamless. Please note that there's an NSLDS session, and I think today it's counter to this session, but they are also going to talk about the CIP codes and reporting them and how it's affecting, especially for those 149 that are consolidated, and how that might affect the borrowers. So you would want to check out the NSLDS session as well. I will not be covering that here. So there's something very different about the rollout for the 2020 CIP codes, and they were not announced through a federal register like they normally are. They were actually announced in a blog post, which that was a new one for me. I've been doing this for a very long time, and I was like, wow, I don't think I've ever had to reference an official blog post before, but that's how they were announced. So the links on this slide, in the second bullet, are for the blog post, and the third one is to the NCES site that will actually allow you to search, filter, and download the 2020 CIP codes if you need it especially for your software people, or if you want it at your desk, if you like to have that around. Okay, so new protocol. We're going to talk about the 2020 CIP codes and how it's affected in COD and the changes we had to make to accept these new CIP codes. So many years ago, when we began to require the CIP code for all program submissions to COD, we created a schema tag that was entitled CIP code year. And we marked it, though, for the last umpteen years as for future use. So we had added it to the schema, but we never really used it. And we're dusting it off, and we're now going to make that new tag required so that we know that we are looking at the 2020 table, and the CIP code that you're sending to us is reliant on that table. So there's no schema change because it was already added to the schema years ago. We just didn't use it. There are some software vendors that were sending it to us, but we just ignore it. They could have been sending us gobbledygook. We have no idea, because if we get tags in that are not required and we're deemed as for future use, we just ignore them. So I'm not sure if you were sending it to us or not, but for 2021, it will be required. So you will, every time you submit a CIP code tag, the regular CIP code with the code in it, you will also be giving us a CIP code year, and it will be 2020. So there are no changes to processing for prior award years. And if you submit the CIP code year for 1920 and prior, we will just keep ignoring it. So, okay. COD system will assume that all CIP codes for 1920 and prior are based on the 2010 table of CIP codes that we had been using. And all the CIP codes submitted for 2021 and forward will be accompanied by the new CIP code year tag that will carry the 2020, and we will know that you acknowledge that it is coming off of that new table of CIP codes. If you supply a CIP code that is no longer valid in the 2020 table, COD will return reject 204. If you send in a new CIP code from the 2020 table in your current processing of the 1920 awards and submissions that you're sending to COD, we will also reject that with 204. And we have had a slew of 204 rejects for 1920 because so many people jumped the gun and started to send us 2020 CIP codes. So we are not going to be ready for these 2020 CIP codes until we have the 2021 implementation in early April, the same time we turn on everything else that is required for 2021, okay? If you fail to supply the new CIP code year tag that is required, the generic missing value reject edit 994 will be returned. And that's about all I have to say about CIP codes, but we should have plenty of time for questions if you have some. I'm going to go on, and we're going to talk about the changes to Children of Fallen Heroes. Some of this was touched on today in the federal update, and lots more of this will be touched on in tomorrow's application processing general session in the morning, so be sure to catch Misty Parkinson's session on that, but I know she's going to touch on what they're doing in FAA Access for this. So, just to recap, the eligibility qualifications for this provision have not changed from the previous year. They are still the same as the EA outlined and was posted a year ago. The only changes that we are doing for Children of Fallen Heroes is operationally, okay? And I'll go into how that looks. So, The changes that are significant to the community is that you will no longer be certifying a student's eligibility for this provision in COD. In 1819 and for 1920, you certified eligibility on the COD web for each of those award years, and we considered that a short-term solution until the CPS system could be updated to accommodate this certification. This is considered a certification of eligibility, and we really do like to keep eligibility in CPS system and awarding and disbursements in COD. We really don't like to certify eligibility in COD if we can help it, but we had a little bit more flexibility with the timing and when that became available, and the fact that the FAFSA was already up and running and computing, and there was no way to change that at the time. So we went ahead and did that as a short-term solution for you to go in and be able to process for these students, always knowing that there was going to be this long-term solution that we would transfer the certification of eligibility to FAA access at a later date. So for 2021 and forward, we are doing that transition to the long-term solution where all the eligibility will be certified in FAA access. Thankfully, given the tragic qualifying factor of losing a parent or guardian, the numbers we have seen for this provision have been relatively small overall. And I think Craig mentioned we only have 51 students for 1819, and that was sent in from 40 schools. For 1920, we have less than 10 students so far that have been certified for this. So we're thankful for that, but we hope it's not because you didn't know how to process them and didn't know how to get these through the system, and that it's actually because we don't have that many students that are eligible. In order to understand what's changed, I'm going to just quickly go over and recap how this is done for 18, 19, 19, 20, if you still need that information. Eligibility is certified on the COD web only. We cannot do that via batch. FAAs are setting the CFH indicator in COD to yes, only for Pell eligible students that qualify, and that would have to be set every year in the COD system. The CFH indicator tag is not returned in any responses that we would send out of COD, but warning edit 224 is, which would give you an indication that that Pell was processed under this provision. And all this is covered under electronic announcement that was posted on November 20th, 2018. And now we're going to look at where on the COD you have been entering this certification in case you have a late-breaking 1920 that you need to do. It is, let me see if this works. No, I don't have a pointer here, so sorry. But it is right down there where I put the red arrows. So you can see on the Create Award page when you went into the COD web, that CFH indicator was on there for every single Pell, even though we only had 51 students in 1819. So we're correcting that with the long-term version. So now let's look at the new solution. Eligibility is going to be certified by the financial aid administrator in FAA access, no longer in COD. And that eligibility certification only has to be done once. Once a financial aid administrator has certified that, it will roll over for that student from year to year. So they don't have to keep proving that their parent died under this provision, and hopefully that will be helpful for everyone that has to deal with this. The thing that you all have to remember in the community is that in order for COD to know that you have set this indicator in FAA access and you have certified the eligibility, you must link to the proper CPS transaction number that will carry that eligibility certification. So if the student has a CPS transaction 1 and 2, and they were Pell eligible, but this certification is not on there, and then all of a sudden you did the certification in FAA Access, that would create another CPS transaction, and Misty will go over this tomorrow in her session, but only until we get you to submit the award with the CPS transaction 3 will COD know that we can process at that higher limit, higher award limit based on this provision, because that is the one that is actually certified. So pretty simple and straightforward. It's not the first time we've had this concept that you have to process the Pell Award off of the one that actually carries all the information that we need to get it to the right amount. So not too hard. So the FAA Access certification is visible within COD on the applicant detail page of COD, and a lot of people are not familiar with this. I found this out in another session, so I'm going to show it to you. A show of hands, people have ever accessed the applicant detail page on COD. So not as many as I would have hoped. So I'm going to show you that. And Pell Awards for the Children of Fallen Heroes eligible students may be submitted to COD via batch or web starting in 2020 with this new long-term solution. Since you're not certifying it on COD web anymore, we don't need you to send it to us via web. You can just do it by batch as long as you choose the right CPS transaction. So hopefully that'll be easier for you and your software systems that I know don't usually like you doing anything on the web. I've been told that very many times. So this is the applicant detail page. You access it under applicant person, and then on the left-hand side links, it's under applicant search. And this is just a summary of what comes over for every ICER transaction for the student. And it carries all the basics that we need in COD. It does not summarize any of the income or asset information off the ICER, but it does give us the EFC, the transaction number, the processing date, whether they're Pell eligible. It gives us all of the matches. It tells us if this is a professional judgment. It gives us any of the reject edits, if the application had any rejects edits. So it tells us a lot of great information, but it's really a quick and dirty. We don't have the full detail. Even though it is called the applicant detail, there's nothing detail about it. It's really just a summary of what we get. But we will have the Children of Fallen Heroes indicator that comes in on that CPS transaction that we can see in COD, and you can verify as well in COD by looking at this page. And I have blocked it out where it will show up. And it's conveniently located under the DoD, or the Department of Defense match flag, that carries all of the information that we need for the students that are eligible for a higher Pell if their parent or guardian died as a result of their service in Iraq or Afghanistan, and that's whether they are eligible for Pell or not. Of course, they'd get the Iraq-Afghanistan service grant if they were not eligible for Pell in that case. So, changes to the COD web based on this. So I've already kind of gone over some of them. If you happen to be on the COD web, this CFH indicator will not display unless the Pell Award is successfully linked to the CPS transaction that carries the certification from FAA Access. And if you do see it now for 2021 and forward, it is not updatable. It's just there for your information, because we're no longer, if you need to change the certification, you need to go back to FAA Access. It will give us a new CPS transaction, and you need to link to that new CPS transaction. So it's just there kind of as an FYI. So we're going to take a look at how that looks. So we had just looked at the Create Award page and how it looks for 18, 19, 19, 20. This is how it's going to look for 2021. The indicator will only appear if it is yes or if it has been changed to no. If it is blank, which given that we only had 51 students in 18, 19, 99.999% of your Pels, you are never going to see this show up, okay? But only when it is valid and it's a factor in the Pell will you see it here, and it is going to be right under the additional eligibility indicator, exactly where it is for the prior years, except it is no longer a drop down. Okay, and on the award detail information page, it's going to be in the exact same spot that it was in prior years. We haven't changed, and even if it's not yes or no, it doesn't show up on this page. It will not clutter up the page for you if you're looking at it, and it is not a factor. So if it's blank, you will never see it. Okay, I'm going to go over the things that have not changed. So from the short-term solution to the long-term solutions, things that have not changed. COD will still not return any CFH indicator tag in responses. We did not do a schema change for this. You will never see this in a response. But you will continue to see warning edit 224. And it is listed as Pell Award submitted with CFH indicator is true. And the CFH indicator is still sent on to NSLDS for the 18-19 award year and forward. That has not changed. We will keep sending this tag that this Pell was processed on, and we will keep sending it on to NSLDS so they can record it there as well. There are no changes to any of these other COD screens that I did not show you. The record information page, the view award information page, the response information page. The award detail page I showed you, but it did not change. Record errors page and the person events detail page. It will still create an event. If you look it up for that student, it will still show up. So that has not changed. And these are also things have not changed. These are still the 4 reports or files that will continue to carry the CFH indicator if it is appropriate for that student. Okay, so hopefully with this presentation and whatever Misty is going to tell you at the general session tomorrow, you will be all set in case you have one of these students that have met this tragic circumstance in their life, and we'll all be able to help them get through very quickly. Okay, we're going to have some program reminders just because, well, just because. Okay. We're going to talk a little bit about direct loan records first processing. And if you're unfamiliar with records first processing and what it is, it's exactly what you do for Pell, and if you process Teach, it just means that you need to send us some disbursement information, and we will increase your current funding level so that you can draw down funds. This is not currently how it works for DL. But it is always available to schools if you want to process your direct loan records this way. It's always been available to you by request. So just to keep in mind, it is how direct loan kind of works after your initial authorization kind of dries up. You have to send us more records in order to get more money. If you do go to a records first processing for direct loan, it might simplify your reconciliation. Sometimes it will help in cross-training your staff, because if they can reconcile Pell, and this is the way it works for Pell, the reconciliations would be a little bit more similar. The processing, sometimes if you can streamline that all the programs work the same way on your campuses, sometimes that helps. And Just a reminder that it can be requested at any time. We got the indication that some schools didn't know that you could do it this way, so we're just reminding you that it can be if you want it to. We're going to talk a little bit about the unique entity identifier. In December of 2020, the DUNS numbers that are issued to your schools will no longer be used. And so we are in a transition period now. So in order to draw down funds, you are going to need what we are going to call, because we love our acronyms, the Unique Entity Identifier, or UEI. It's a lot of vowels for me, and it's not falling off the tongue naturally yet. So the UEI is issued by the System for Award, or SAM system management. This is going to be a little different because you must register. It's going to be a 12-character alphanumeric identifier, and it's the information about that. There is no EA posted on this yet, although it is in draft version form. And if anybody saw me during Tanika's presentation, I had to do a last check on my phone to make sure it hadn't been posted, because I've seen so many iterations of the draft of this EA, I couldn't remember. Had we posted it, had we not? I was looking, I couldn't find it, and I got confirmation that no, it's not been posted yet, but it should be very, very soon. So we want to remind you that this is out there and give you enough time frame to get on board before the end of next year. But the sooner you register and get your UEI, the better. Here is a list of the posted resources that pertain to some of the topics we talked about: Children of Fallen Heroes, the sequester required changes that Tanika covered, 18.1 implementation EA is out there, the closeout information EA that would cover some other funding information things. The COD Common Record Schema changes, those were posted on October 30th. And I apologize, the 2021 COD Technical Reference EA was posted. Because of the requirements we have to get these sessions locked down, we guessed at the date as the 26th, and we guessed wrong. It actually got posted on the 27th, but I'm sure you'll find it if you're looking for it, but I do apologize for that. Also, because of the immediate nature of the Informed Borrower tool, that EA was posted to the community on IFAP on November 21st, but that is not listed here, so I apologize for that. Some related sessions of interest. If you are interested in reconciling and the processes of that, they go through a lot of this under what's in your toolkit in session 3. Session 4 will go over some CIP code things and the National Student Loan Data System, along with a lot of other things in that one. Session 9, if you didn't see the first session of Year Round Pell that I did with my esteemed colleagues, session 9, we will be redoing that both on Wednesday and on Thursday. Session 15 is the campus-based programs. They will talk a lot about things, and we'll cover just a few COD things in there. Next Gen, we're pushing session 29 that is happening right now, so the last time you can see that is on Thursday morning. And our hands-on sessions, if you need any COD hands-on, COD basics or advanced, those are running throughout the conference as well. If you need to contact, we just want to remind people, the COD School Relations Center is your best source for information, or your first line of defense. And then if it's something they can handle and can't handle, it always gets escalated to FSA. I get lots of things forwarded to me. in the grants division, and I'm sure Tanika gets a lot of things forward to her regarding R2T4 and all sorts of topics. So please know if they can't answer your questions at the School Relations Center, they will send it to us. And at this point, we have plenty of time. We have over 25 minutes left in the session, and we have 4 open mics. So who's ready for a lively game of Stump the Fed? In the back, please, ma'am.
I have 2 questions on the IBT business.
I bet you do.
First of all, is it borrower specific or loan specific? So if a student wants to borrow multiple loans in an award year, do they only do this once?
Yeah, so if a student's borrowing multiple loans during the award year, they will only have to do Informed Borrower Tool once. They'll only have to do the confirmation once for that award year.
Before the first disbursement of
Before
the first
the first
loan?
disbursement, yes.
Okay, and then the second question is, does it expire? You said it's going to be available in April. Can the student do it in April even though we're not going to originate a loan until July or August?
Yes, they should be able to, because it's going to be linked to that award when you do originate it.
So even if we don't do the loan till January or next March, it'll still be okay? It could be a year old by then.
Yeah, let me check. Oh, we have our COD experts who will answer this one. Yeah, go ahead. Come on up. Come on up. You guys sat in that corner. We gotta come over.
Hi everyone, Dean Clark. Yeah, it'll be linked to the award year, similar to an MPN that a student can drop, and then the loan will link to it. So the same way that an MPN can...
Yeah, we can't really hear you back here.
Sorry, so, hi. The same way that an MPN can be submitted before the loan is originated, a borrower can come in for that award year and do their informed borrower confirmation, and then we will keep it on file. So whenever you originate against that award year, we'll link to it.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
On the changes of CIP codes, could you consider having the COD system accept the year of the CIP code for older award year data for 1920? Because I haven't had a chance to actually look at our systems since seeing this stuff about CIP codes at this conference, but I'm pretty sure we only have 1 CIP code per program in our data system. So if one of our client schools should change the CIP code of a program to a 2020 CIP code, and we still needed to submit to COD 1920 data for students in that program, we would have a problem.
Yeah, and we would have a problem if you submitted a 2020 that was not valid in 1920. If you use the CIP code table and that CIP code was not valid in the prior year, we are looking at 2 different tables. We're looking either at the 2010 CIP code table or the 2020, and we can't look, if it's not one of the 1,994 that were not changed, if it's any one of the other ones that did change, we would not be able to accept that for 1920 and prior award years. We're just not going to be able to.
But that's my point. Once the CIP codes are officially released, so another session said that the official release was going to be March, but regardless, if they're already out there, why can't 1920 awards use the 2020 CIP codes?
Because it's not loaded in our system until April when
well,
we
no,
go live.
But I'm saying if a school changes a program's CIP code in April to the 2020 table CIP code,
okay,
and there are still active 1920 awards needing submissions to COD, the way our system does the CIP codes is it reads the current CIP code of the program the student is currently enrolled in.
I understand that, but what I'm saying, for 2,000 of the CIP codes, we're not going to have an issue. For the 1,994, we will have no issue because it's going to be the same CIP code. But for the ones that have changed, we are going to have a problem. because if the CIP code is not valid for 2020 and 2021 and forward, or if it's not valid for the prior, then we can't accept a 1920 award, correction, whatever you're going to do to that 1920 award. It's going to have to be with a CIP code that was valid in that award year.
Okay, but what I'm saying is
Maybe I'm not understanding.
the 2020 CIP codes are going to be out before you do your April launch of your...
They're out now. They've been out. They've
Yeah.
been out and issued since September.
Yeah, so
That's
what I'm
not-
saying is, why can't your April release allow your 1920 processing to accept from either 2010 or 2020 CIP code tables?
Because we don't know what table you would be doing from, and these CIP codes, it was deemed that these CIP codes are only valid for 2021 and forward. They're not valid in 1920. So we can't use them in 1920.
That's COD imposing.
No, that's the department that has told us this.
Okay, so the department has said,
Yes. So in Craig Munier's federal update today, he said that these were valid for the 2021 and forward. So that's policy telling us, systems, that this is when they're valid and this is when they will begin. That is their interpretation of what has happened. And so they have given us guidelines that these will be valid for 2021 and forward. And so that is how we built the system. System does not dictate policy, policy dictates system. And that is what they told us.
okay, so I'll have to do a cross-check on our clients to see if anybody has any at-risk CIP
Right, and that's
codes.
why I gave you the table of how many.
Yeah.
So it shouldn't be, you should only have to look for in the crosswalk that is given to you on the site
Yeah,
that I quoted there.
Yeah, about 200.
How many are in that overlap that you may have an issue for?
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Okay? Sorry. Yes, I don't know who was first. Okay, go ahead, sir,
Hi.
please.
For the informed borrower tool, if a student requests a loan increase, are they going to have to go back and do it again before that additional amount can be dispersed?
I apologize. Can you speak up a little? I apologize.
Yeah, for the informed borrower tool, if a student requests a loan increase, will they have to go and complete that again before that additional amount can disperse?
If that loan increase is within the same award year, they would not need to do IBT again.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes, ma'am?
Just a question. Are you going to do any changes to the CRPN files for the master promissory notes for the IBT, or is it just going to be the whole new message class?
Yeah, we're not doing any changes to that process.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. You don't need to
Yes,
change your
sir.
options.
Hi there. So again, on the IBT confirmation process, I think I heard you say that when a student does it, if they had an award with our school from a previous year, that it would generate that message class out to us. Okay. If we have a new borrower, new student to our school, so they do not have an award with us from the previous year, and they do the IBT confirmation after we've originated, so we've already originated, there's an award out there, we got a response that said IBT confirmation false, and then they go out and do it, will we get a CRIB file, or will we have to check that manually on COD's website?
So just make sure I understand.
Sure.
So this is a student who is new to the institution. They already completed IBT for that award year?
No,
No,
they
so
had not.
They haven't done
Right.
anything,
Right.
and you award them funds, and then they complete it.
Right, so we award, we originate, we get the response back.
You would receive the response back at that point. when they
Right,
do
and the
complete
response, the origination response would come back with the IBT confirmation equal false, because they had not done it yet.
it. Yes.
Okay.
Then they
so-
would need to go in and do it. And at the point where they do complete and confirm, then you would receive a message class showing that it's been completed.
even though they don't have an award on the system from a previous year for our school. They would have an award on the system for the current year with our school, but they would not have an award for the previous
Yeah,
year.
they would still receive it. Yes. They would still get it, because they already have an award on the system.
Hi. So you could originate the new award for that 2020-21 award year. You could
Yep.
originate, but it would have to be anticipated until they complete.
Absolutely, right.
Once they complete the informed borrower confirmation process, you would then get a system-generated response saying, hey, this student has now done their confirmation, at which point you could flip those, that disbursement to actual and release the funding. It
Sure.
has nothing to do with having a prior year award at your school.
Okay. Thank you, because that, I guess maybe it was this morning, they said that you had to have a previous year award on the system for the CRIB to generate.
So that is to get a proactive notification, which would potentially tell you that when you do your origination, you could originate with an actual disbursement as opposed to originating with anticipated.
Gotcha. Understand.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
So kind of to piggyback on that, and thank you, that's for, if, for instance, you have a student that went in, when it went up in April and did their IBT, then you would be able to do it that way. Go ahead.
Yes, ma'am.
So that's just to clarify, if they did it for another school, transfer in, they're now borrowing at your current school, that's okay, they don't have to do a new one because it says yes from the other school?
Yeah, you should be able to request at that point the information, or you can do a search to see that it's been completed.
And one more question, in regards to the PLUS loans, the parent has to do it or the student has to go in even though the parent is
Yeah,
completing
thanks for asking that question, because I have a feeling we're going to get a lot of those questions. The parent would need to go in, log in with their FSA ID, and complete the informed borrower tool, since they're borrowing a loan on behalf of their child, and they're going to ultimately be responsible for paying that loan back.
Sorry, one more question. So
Sure.
that'll get linked to the PLUS borrower ID, or it would get linked to the student coming in the message class?
Say it again, I apologize.
So when the parent completes it, is it coming in through like the borrower's information, like on the CRSP file? Like how's it going to get linked to that student? Is it through the student or through the parent borrower information?
It's going to be linked through the parent borrower information. Yeah, it's just like a normal PLUS loan. You'd still see the student. It's going to be linked to them.
Thank you.
Sorry for not answering that clear.
Yes, ma'am.
Is this on?
Yes,
Okay.
just get really close.
Well, I'm going to stay on the PLUS loan because we have parents who have multiple students. So would they need to complete it for each individual student?
They shouldn't need to, because the loans, regardless if they're borrowing for students at different institutions, the total amount of that loan they're going to have to repay back. So they should only have to complete that once.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes, sir.
So I'll start with the question on Children of Foreign Heroes. So now if the FAA access, so if you go to the FAA access and check Children of Foreign Heroes, if they're eligible for that, and it'll be for all award years, right? No, it's the award year.
It will be for multiple award years if the student continues on. Once we move to the long-term solution for Children of Fallen Heroes and the certification can happen in FAA access, they have a way to roll that over for that student from year to year. We did not have that ability in the short-term solution we were doing in COD, where you would have to certify every year. But they do not have to certify every year in FAA access. It should be a one and done situation. That is my understanding, and that should be reiterated in Misty Parkinson's presentation tomorrow morning. So I'm really hoping that that's what she says, because that's what they told me she was going to say. So because I had to do this before her, I'm a little nervous, but hopefully.
Okay, I'll check with that. And so this is only going to be for, on the FAA access, only for 2021 and forward, or?
Correct.
Okay, just for those. And sorry, just some questions back to.
That's all right. We have 11 minutes and there's no one else at the mic.
Okay.
So you have the room.
All right, I'm going to use that. So I have the questions on informed borrower. Now, because it's IBT based, is there going to be an option or scenario where a student, once who is accepted it, can go back and change? And or we can safely assume that once it's true for that award year, it's going to stay true for the entire award year?
Once it's true for that award year, it's going to stay true.
It's good. Okay, so it won't be
Yeah, because
reverted.
it's initially, when they go through the tool and they scroll down, it's literally a button where they're confirming their information, and then that's how it's sent over. So if they went back into the tool again, and they closed out of the screen, it's not going to change their setting.
Okay, thank you. And on the borrower ID, informed borrower ID, that's going to be the same ID across all direct loans for that year? The ones that we get back in the COD tag?
Yeah, I'm getting a head nod, so that's yes.
Okay, okay, thank you. And one last one. It's on the schema. Any plans or discussions? I know in the tech ref there was nothing mentioned, and I'm assuming it's going to be the same for this year. Any plans of retiring any of the older schemas? And any discussions or anything like that?
Any more schemas?
Any older schemas like the 30D, 30E for those award years?
Not for this award year, no.
Nothing
No,
for-
4.0D
yeah.
is the one for 2021. We are not anticipating that we know of. No one has told anybody here at the podium that there would be any other mid-year schema change. We understand what mid-year schema changes
mean
do
for
to
schools,
people.
yeah.
It pains us as much as it does every institution and software vendor out there. So we advise management of the consequence of that if they even whisper at a mid-year schema change. We're like, absolutely
Yeah,
not.
with that downward impact.
We are not getting at the podium to tell them that. No, absolutely. You get up here, because we know we've suffered those before, and it hurts us as much, and we know what that's like. So I would say emphatically no.
Yes, yeah, she's correct.
Emphatically no.
Okay, thank you. Thank you,
You're
that's
welcome.
it. Thank you.
Yes, we have plenty of time.
So
Oh boy, that's tall.
I just want to make sure that I'm getting this right. So even
You
though,
could get a little bit closer though, sorry.
so even though the IBT is going to be implemented in April of 2020, it will. When you mean implemented, is it for the 2021 academic year, not the 1920?
Yes, that's correct. It's only for 2020, 2021 forward, not for 1920.
Okay. Thanks.
You're welcome.
I have a question.
Yes.
For the informed borrower information, if we originate student loan and the student did not go through that, would loan be rejected, or school will be responsible to ensure that the student goes through that process?
If the student does not complete that process, you will get a reject, and you will be unable to disperse until they do, you make communication with that student, they do complete that process. Is that the question you were asking?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah, and I
And-
believe that edit reject is 225, so you'll get that reject code.
And when we say you're unable to disperse, we mean that we will not accept an actual disbursement. Whatever you did in your bursar's office, we can't stop you from doing, but we're telling you that we're not going to give you the money for that loan. So we will reject the actual disbursements for those.
Good. Good. Thank you.
Hi there.
Hi.
How will IBT impact a student with absolutely no debt? Like if they went to undergraduate, took out no loans, and are now attending a graduate program and are borrowing for the first time. Would they acknowledge that they have zero debt? Or if you had a student who previously paid off all their loans and currently have zero debt and are planning on taking out a new federal loan?
I think I heard that. So you're saying, so this is an undergraduate student who borrowed no loans going to graduate school, and they're borrowing loans, and oh, yeah. Yeah, there's, if they don't have any loans available, they're still able to use IBT. It's just going to interface with College Scorecard and show them their average loan balance at that institution. So
would IBT then be required of them if they have no debt?
yeah, they'll still have to confirm that information that they're viewing. So right now we're still working on the conditional messages for that, just based on the view that a student would see. Thank you.
Okay, we probably have time for one more question.
Sorry, I forgot one question. So in the, again, it's on the IBT. Would the tags, if they're true, the informed borrower tags be returned against, suppose student has plus sub and unsub, would it be returned against all the 3 loans in the file or just one, or how would that be?
It's going to come for all 3.
For all, and
Yeah, so if they have sub, unsub, and grad plus. Oh no, they wouldn't have grad plus and sub.
just the plus.
But it will return for the applicable loans.
And even in the response file, the same format, there would be in the response file, when we get response file against the files we send, would it be the same thing
Yeah.
against all loans?
Yes.
Against all, okay. And,
Um,
okay, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, if there are no more questions, thank you very much. We appreciate your coming and spending time with us.